Today's video is part of a series of videos where I create all of the different chart types in Excel. So today we are creating the scatter chart. So I'm just going to scroll through so that we see some of them. So we have this one. These are all scatter charts with, where we're looking at different parameters and just different styles like that. And then we are going to look at the bubble chart, which is this. All right, if you want to watch other parts of this series where I create other types of the different types of the charts in Excel, you can check in the description box below to the links to the other parts of this course or the links to the individual videos. All right, let's get started. So I currently already have Excel open, and this is the data set we'll be working with. The link to this data set will be in the description box below. It's going to be in an Excel workbook format, and the pages are already going to be created. So all you need to do is navigate to the page, and then we'll just create the scatter charts. So the first one we're going to create is marketing spend versus revenue. So this is our data, and in order to create this first scatter charts, we're going to select marketing spend, and then we are going to select revenue. Go over to insert recommended charts, and already Excel is already recommending a scatter charts, but what I want us to do is go to the all charts tab so that we can see all of the chart options. If you want to watch the tutorial on how to create these other chart options as part of our series, you can go and check it out. Now it really doesn't matter which one I select, Excel is going to create this one because of the number of columns I have. If we have more columns, then it's going to pick a different one, but this is the one it's going to create even if I select this one. So I'm just going to click on OK, and this is our first scatter chart. So this is our scatter chart, and let's just take a moment to understand what's going on here. So we're trying to look at the relationship between marketing spend and revenue. So as a business, when they spend on marketing, say maybe on ads, billboards, things like that, does it mean that they have an increase in revenue? Well, based on this chart, yes, the short answer is yes, although it doesn't always guarantee. So you have these dots that are here. So if we hover over these dots, you see we have a marketing spend of 19,987, but there's still the associated point is 1.2 million. And we also have this one here where it's around the same marketing spend level and revenue is much higher. So it doesn't always guarantee. You're not going to check every dot. I'm just showing it. You're basically looking at the shape or how the dots scatter basically. So this shows a positive relationship, although it doesn't always guarantee. If it's following an entirely straight line, that means there's always a positive relationship. But in this case, the short answer is yes, the more the business spends, or our whatever business service, whatever it is, there's a higher revenue. I'm just going to change the name of this chart to marketing spend versus revenue. I'm not going to make any changes at all to the chart. In fact, in this particular series, we're not going to do too much in the way of formatting. We'll just focus on creating the scatter charts. So I'm just going to hover. Let me see if I'm supposed to be able to. Let me change it to the default option. So if you want to use some of these default options that are here, you can. So I'm just going to click through it. Another exercise you can do is try recreating these designs for what you already have by default in Excel. So it will give you an idea of how you can format your chart and the charts area. Anyway, that's it for our first scatter chart. Let's move on to something else. Let's go over to the next sheet, and this time we're going to select marketing spend and website visits. Once again, go over to the insert tab, recommended charts. I could select it from there, but I'll just select this one. Once again, scatter, and we're going to insert a scatter chart. So we also have this upward trend where we see that the more marketing spend, the more website visits we have. But this time you see that the bottom is empty, meaning that there's a stronger positive relationship between spending and website visits. So while not every time that the business spends more on marketing, it doesn't always guarantee that they are going to make more revenue. In this case, it actually shows a stronger positive relationship where every time they spend, there is an upward trend towards more website visits. Well, yeah, that's it. With this one, we could select one of these options, but let's just format it just a little bit, to say, yeah, we've made some changes, but our focus really isn't going to be on that. I'm going to make this marketing spend versus website visits. I'm going to right click the chart area and I'm going to format chart area. You can change the fill of the chart, things like that. I'm not going to, we have gradient fill, picture, pattern. You can choose whatever you want, but I'm not going to really focus on formatting the charts. Same with border. The automatic option is this really faint ash color, so you can change the line, whether it's a gradient line or a solid line or just no line at all, but I'm going to return it back to automatic. So if you want to explore all of these options, you can. There's the option for shadow, glow, soft edges, all of that settings you can use in other charts, you can use on this one. So if you want to select a shadow, I can choose this one and we have a shadow. So all we're doing is formatting just the chart area. Let's select the actual data series. I'm going to come over to fill, and you see this option line. There are no lines in this chart. If you select solid line, what it's going to do is going to create a scatter chart with lines, which is a type of chart we're going to, this type of scatter chart we're going to get to eventually, but no line. But when you want to modify the colors of this, or colors or shapes of these markers, you can. So the option is markers. I'm going to expand this marker options. Currently it's automatic. If you set none, of course all our points are going to disappear. Then when you want to change shape, select built-in, and we can select different types. We have this circular option. Maybe you want to make it squares, you can make it squares. This diamond shapes and triangle shapes. So the difference between these two, you see that they don't have fill. So this, I've selected this triangle shape. Let's go over to fill. If I change the fill of this to this orange color, you'll see that the inside of the triangle is what's changing, and it has a border by default. So outside is the border, the inside is the fill. However, if I change to one of these options, say this one, the outside is the fill and the inside is the border. So if you want to change the color of this axis, I'm going to first of all remove the fill to no fill, and then you will just have this axis. And if you want to change the color of this, what you do is select this and let me say change it to this purple color, and then you have it. So for the ones that have this shape, what you change is the border colors. For this, you can change the fill, then remove the borders. I want to use this diamond shapes. Now it's the borders that have that pink color, but I want the fill to have the pink color. So I'm going to select solid fill, and I'm going to use this pink color. So now we have this, and if I want the border to have a different color, I'm going to select maybe this blue color, something like this. I can even increase the size of the marker, so maybe increase it just a little bit. I'll just say 6. It's getting a bit much. I'll just increase it to 6. So the more you increase these markers, the more you're going to make them larger. And we can also format the lines if we want to. So the line is currently a solid line, and once again, the same type of options you see with other chart types is what you always have here. So I'm just going to maybe change the dash type of the border, and now you can see, maybe I should choose let me see, something like this. So if we pick a color, you now see that they have borders around them. I'm going to get closer, and you can see that these markers have borders around them. But anyway, that is the marketing spend versus website visits scatter charts. I'm going to come over to this one, and this one wants to look at marketing spend versus web visits and revenue, basically the combination of the first two. I'm going to select marketing spend, website visits, and revenue. Go over to insert, recommended charts, and I could use one of them, but I just want to navigate there, XY scatter, and just click on OK. And this is what we have. So this time, previously we've looked at revenue and website visits compared to marketing spend. So on this x-axis, that's on this bottom value here, what we have is the marketing spend. The blue dots is the website visits, while the orange dots are the revenue, is the revenue. However, it's difficult to tell what's going on because as you can see, we can see the revenue spent, but website visits isn't really looking like what we had before, which is this. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to try my best to select this blue dot, which is website visits, and I'm going to come over to this option, series options, click on it, and this time select secondary axis. Now what this has done is they have their individual axes. So revenue spend will have its own axis, and then this is the axis for website visits. This one is for revenue spend. So revenue, sorry. So we are comparing both charts at the same time to the same value. So we're comparing marketing spend to revenue, marketing spend to website visits on the same chart. So you can see the comparison of their relationships. If it's a little difficult to interpret like this, yes, they do have different colors. You can do different things to make them maybe stand out a bit. I'll just go over to fill, and let's say under marker options, you could, I don't know, let's select built-in so that we can change the color of the border. So I can say border, let's use solid line, and now the borders of this blue circles will have different colors of borders. Or you could just outright change the shape of the secondary axis, which is market. You could change the shapes of this one, but I want to change the shape of the one on top. So I'm going to change the type to this X, this one that is basically an X, and so now we have this, that you can see the website visits on top, revenue spent, and you can compare them to the same value and see how they differ. So yeah, this is how you can create and you can compare multiple values to the same item on a single scatter chart. Let me just rename the name of my chart. Maybe I'll just rename it. This is going to be marketing spend versus web visits and revenue. In case you want to make your charts more interesting, you could add shadows, glues, or things like that to these markers. But once again, just play around with it and you sort of get a hang of it. Let's create another version of this one where we're going to look at a new value. Let's say this time profits. So we're going to look at marketing spend. Let me just say marketing versus revenue and profit. So you're comparing marketing versus revenue, marketing versus profit. I'm going to select marketing spend, revenue, profit. Go over to insert, recommended charts. We're going to select all charts, come to XY scatter, and we're going to click on OK, and there we go. Once again, it's plotting them on the same axis, so if they don't have the same range of values, one is going to be squished more than the other one, so it won't have as much spread as the other, just because the values have different ranges. So I think the highest for, let me see if I can get the value of at least one of these. So this very high value, like the highest value for profit is 19,377, while you have this really high one, let me see, for revenue it's at 700 and is this 7 million? I believe 7 million I'm looking at. So that's why. So once again, select this one, come over to series options, and then plot it on its secondary axis. So now it has its own axis, and you can see the spread, and they pretty much have the same shape. So when you see things like this at a glance, you could tell, oh, the relationship is very similar, where the marketing spend versus profit, marketing spend versus revenue are essentially the same. I'm just going to, so they both have positive relationships. It doesn't always guarantee, but they both have positive relationships. I'm going to name this marketing spend versus revenue and profits. You can change the shape of any of them if you want, but we are just going to move on to the next one, which is this one, unit price versus units and revenue. I'm going to select the one to use unit price. So select unit price, unit sold, and revenue. And we are going to go to insert recommended charts. Let's do all charts, and I'm going to click on OK. Give this a moment, and once again we'll have to plot this unit price on a secondary axis. So I'll just click on it, go over to series option. You don't have these options, just right click and you'll be able to change it. Click on secondary axis, and now we can see the blue dots better. So the x-axis is units sold, the orange dots is revenue, and the blue dots is unit price. So for revenue, the more units you sell or revenue increases, the more items will sell, which is what you would expect from any business. If there's a negative reaction where negative relationship where the more units you sell, the less the revenue, I think what you tend to interpret if it's a business that is selling a product is maybe they are doing bundle deals where they'll say buy 3 get 2 free, but the production cost does not go away. So even if you are offloading your inventory, it doesn't mean you're making more revenue. You may actually be losing money by selling more. Instead of if you sold the items individually, you actually make more revenue than selling them as bundles. So if there was a negative relationship, I would say that's why probably. But this one, it's the revenue is fine. That the more items you sell, the more revenue you make. Now we're going to interpret unit price. Instead of looking at it from we're going to still look at it from left to right. So on the lower where you see between 0 and 2000, so there's a lot of sales when the price is, will I say, it's an equal event essentially, because if we were to say if we had a triangular relationship, we'll say that okay, cheaper item sells more, but essentially every other item sell, across all revenue brackets, the unit price brackets, they are all selling essentially the same. Even within this 2000 to 4000, 4000 to 6000, they are essentially selling the same. So I think the demand is uniform across all of our all these brackets. So there's not really much to say about that. So what this chart is telling us is that in the end, selling more items will drive more revenue, because we're not seeing any real positive or negative relationship between price and the the number of units sold. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'm going to name this chart units price versus units sold and revenue. No, it's not. Oh yeah, revenue. All right, that's it for this one. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. There's a positive relationship here. There really isn't much of a difference between the price of the item and the units sold. So go for more units instead of try to go for more items being sold than instead of focusing on pricing basically. So you can just price your items however you want. It really doesn't affect demand across the board. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is this one, marketing versus web. Let's go ahead and plot that. Let's select this marketing spend, website visits, and we are going to go to insert, recommended charts, all charts, XY scatter, and you could technically choose one of these, yes, but want to demonstrate this one. It's the same chart, but this time you're going to have a line. So let me say I insert this. I'm going to click on this, and you will have exactly the same sort of chart we just created, but because I just wanted to demonstrate it because of the chart type, let me go back and insert the chart type I want to demonstrate. Well, the scatter chart I want to demonstrate, which is this one, scatter with smooth lines and markers. And then when I click on this, this is what we're going to have. If you use more complicated data, it's going to look extremely messy, just like I did when I clicked on lines and you just saw it just became one giant mess. So I just wanted to demonstrate what a scatter chart with lines look like, so you can see what's going on. So this one is just we're not even going to bother interpreting it. I just want to show you the charts. I'm just going to create this one also, so I can show you different sort of shape. So we have all charts, XY scatter. I want to create this one, scatter with smooth lines and markers, same one, and we are going to have this. So if let me zoom out. So this is what they look like. So it works well with when there's fewer data sets, when there are fewer items in your data set. When there are more data points, it becomes extremely messy. In that case, just use a typical scatter plot. Don't use this one. Let's move on to the next one. I'm going to come over here to this next page, or this next worksheet, and I'm going to select all three of these columns, insert, recommended charts. Let's go to all charts, XY scatter, and we're still going to use the same type of chart, scatter with smooth lines and markers, and I'm going to click on OK. So this is the similar to the one where we're comparing two values to one relationship. So select this, just like we did, come over to series options and then plot this on the secondary axis, and now you can see the relationship, the two relationships on their own axis comparing to the same item. And I'm going to just come over here, just to show different versions of it. It's just a scatter chart with lines connecting the markers. I'm going to insert, recommended charts, all charts, XY scatter, and we're still going to use this one. This one we can still see the this axis, which is profit, but once again let's just make it secondary axis, and there we go. So yeah, that's it for this section. Very quick, it's just scatter charts with line connecting the dots. Let's move over to this next sheet, and once again I'm just going to select all three columns here. So we're not just going to do this with just two columns, since I just want to demonstrate what they look like. Insert, recommended charts. Let's go to all charts, XY scatter. This time we're going to use this one, scatter with smooth lines. There won't be any markers, and I'm going to click on OK. And as you can see, we have a very similar shape with markers. Let me select the line, that blue line, and then select secondary axis, which is website visit. And as you can see, this is what it looks like. We can add markers to this. So I'm going to select marker options is none, and then I'm going to select built-in, and now we actually have markers. So you can build out the chart if you want to, or select one of the options that exist. So when will you choose one over the other? If you want to check relationships and there are fewer data sets, maybe use this one, but just stick to the basic scatter charts. I just want to demonstrate. I'm going to also select this one. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to select these three columns, insert, recommended charts, all charts, XY scatter, scatter with smooth lines, and I'm going to click on OK. You can pretty much guess what the other charts will look like. So I'm just going to select this one. We're just going to quickly run through this so we can move on to the next type of scatter chart, which will actually take our time to interpret. Series options, secondary axis for profits, and we are going to have a chart that looks like this. If you want to change the chart title, you can, but I'm going to leave it like that. Let's move on to this one. This version is basically the same as the previous chart, but this time the lines aren't smooth. They're going to be straight lines. So I'm going to select these three columns, Inserts, Recommended Charts, All Charts, going to XY Scatter, and we're going to select this one, Scatter with Straight Lines and Marker. Click on OK, and as you can see, it essentially has the same shape. However, the lines aren't smooth, they are just straight lines. I'm going to select this axis, website visits, go over to series options, make this secondary axis, and there we go. That's what it looks like. Let's move on to the next one. Once again, select all columns, go over to Insert, Recommended Charts, go over to All Charts, and I'm going to select, I believe it should be, let me see. Oh no, it's the wrong chart. I'm just going to go over to Inserts, Recommended Charts, All Charts, and it's going to be this one, Scatter with Straight Lines, and it's going to change the type of chart. So it didn't insert a new chart, it just changed the type of chart. I'm going to select this orange line, which is profit, go over to series options, and I'm going to make it a secondary axis, and yeah, we have this. So there's no need for me to demonstrate any other thing. I just wanted to show you those other variants, and you can still create other charts from this one. It doesn't need to be any specific one. But anyway, that is it for this scatter chart. Now we're going to move on to bubble charts. I'm going to click on this, and we are going to use this data set. So what our bubble chart does, we can't really say much because of the format of the bubble chart. Let's look at the default options. So I'm going to click on this second. This is much more legible. We could select this. I could select this. It's having issues. It's a bit slow. This one actually, I wanted to say it's much better, but it has this call out values. That's not going to make it any much more easier to see. I'm just going to go back to the default so that we can make changes by ourselves, and I just want to return it back to its original style, and Ctrl Y to bring it back. What I'm going to do is just add a border to these circles. So I'm going to come over to the fill options, and on border I'm going to select solid line. I'm going to use a much brighter color. Let me say this yellow color. Now what are we looking at? On the x-axis, let me click on it. On the x-axis we have marketing spend. On the y-axis we have revenue. The size of the bubbles is profit. So if you remember, the first charts we created were comparing marketing spend and revenue, and it had this essentially the same shape. Then when we combined marketing spend, revenue, and profit, profit was in its own independent axis on a secondary axis. However, what a bubble chart does is that it shows the strength of the relationship depending on the size of the bubble. So at the bottom, you see that there's less profit here essentially, where spending does not always guarantee profit. Yes, it does, but not as much. But higher spending, say at $20,000 for marketing, it means more revenue and profit. So instead of having two axes, you can plot all three items or all three relationships in the same chart and just kind of see the relationship between all of those. Let's rename these charts marketing spend versus revenue and profits. I'm going to move on to the next one, which is going to be another bubble chart. Website visits, units sold, and revenue. I'm going to go over to the insert tab, recommended charts, all charts, and we are going to go to the XY scatter, and we're going to select units sold, the bubble chart, and yeah, we're going to have this. Once again, let's format it to see, we can sort of see our bubbles, but let's make it much more easier to see. I'm going to select the bubbles over at fill. Let me pick this color as the fill, and it's quite difficult to see. I'm going to add an effect. So I'm going to add a glow. So under glow, I'm going to use, let me use this second option. That's a lot. Let me use something smaller. Okay, so this is what we have. Once again, just by looking at it, if you look at it as a basic scatter chart, you can see that there's a positive relationship between website visits, units sold, and revenue. So once again, you can just take a look at it, and while you're looking at the positive, where you're saying, okay, more website visits leads to more units sold, does it always mean that we have good revenue? Doesn't always mean that's the case. But yeah, that's another bubble chart we can just take a look at. Let's do another one. I'm going to move on to this one. For this, we are going to use revenue, cost, and profit, and insert recommended charts, all charts. I'm going to use this, click on OK, and yeah, we have this. I'm going to select these bubbles once again. I'm going to add a solid line for their border. Let me create something that looked very similar to what we had in one of the defaults. I'm going to make this purple, and I'm going to select no fill for the fill. So we're going to have this. So what our chart shows is that this bubble chart compares the revenue and cost, while the size of each bubbles represents the profit. As the revenue increases, cost increases, but the size of the bubble shows that not all revenue is equally profitable. So larger bubbles just indicate what is more profitable, essentially. So yeah, that's it. I don't think there's much I can say. The more you get comfortable with bubble charts, it's a third. Once you start understanding what they do, it becomes easier to kind of understand what's going on. Let's quickly move to the next one. This one is going to be very similar to something we've already done before, but once again, I just wanted to show another bubble chart since there's an opportunity to do that with this data set. I'm going to select, let's start with units sold, and I'm going to select revenue, and I'm going to select customer rating. Let me see if I have the right one. I want to see, yeah, okay. It's unit sold, not unit price, unit sold, revenue, and customer rating. Insert recommended charts, all charts. We could also use from recommended charts. It's this one, so I'm just going to click on it. I just like going to the actual tab, and there we go. That's another one. I could just select the bubbles once again, and instead of a fill, you know what, let's use a different type of fill. I'm going to use pattern fill. This looks very odd. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. Just pick what's most legible. I'm going to select, let me see, this one, and that actually looks very this actually looks quite will I say interesting. I'm just doing it for, let me increase the weight of the lines. Okay, so we have something like this. This looks very I don't know how to say it. I really don't like it. Maybe somebody is saying it and they're liking it. They're like, what's wrong with it? It's really cool. Well, I guess whenever you're designing things like this, where first and foremost, Excel is an analysis tool, is a data analysis tool where you're visualizing your data, and you're visualizing, in this case, you're visualizing relationships, you know, formatting and presenting your data. If you are interested in that, you know, you don't just put it out there just like that. But what you tend to be most interested in is clarity. So pick whatever formatting options makes your results easy to interpret. So I just wanted to do that. It looks really odd, and yeah, we're going to move on to the next one. I'm going to select this. We're going to select units sold. I'm going to select revenue and discount percent. Go over to insert recommended charts, and I'm going to just select it from here instead of going through the whole process of going to the XY scatter charts tab. I'm going to select the bubbles once again. We can actually select, let me see if, okay, this style 5, I'm going to use this one. It's one of the options. We can just change it to that. So what this bubble chart is actually showing is that returns improve performance, while discounts improves sales, but it's not always profitable. But anyway, that is it. I think we've made enough bubble charts for now. And let's move on to the final type of bubble charts, or final type of chart, which is essentially this, but a 3D version of it. So I'm going to select this. Let's go over. You can rename your chart if you want to. I just want to quickly move through all of it so we don't have to start, renaming the chart and so on and so forth. Just use the title of the sheet, the name of the sheet to rename your chart, or whatever columns we're selecting. That should be able to guide you in naming your chart. I'm going to select units sold, and then I'm going to select customer rating, and I'm going to also select revenue. Let's go over to insert recommended charts, all charts, XY scatter, and we're going to use this one, the 3D bubble chart. It's still the same kind of bubble chart, but like I said, it's just a 3D version. I'm just going to click on OK and give this a moment. And I don't know if it's mine that has this issue where there are no options, or there are indeed no options, but there are no defaults. Well, okay, they are. It's not just loading on time. Okay, I think it's just my own PC that is slow, and the other styles are not loading. So this is a 3D bubble chart. And if you want, maybe yours is working fine, you can select some of the options. I want to try a different one if it's going to load. Okay, it is, but I'm just going to return it back to, let me change the color of the bubbles to something else. Let me see, this same pink color. That's let me pick something lighter, a lighter shade of that color. Yeah, this is what we have. So this is a 3D bubble chart. Interpretation essentially goes the same. So Excel has this thing where it will have the 2D version of a certain type of chart, and sometimes it will have the 3D version. So this is just a 3D version, and I just wanted to demonstrate. So I'm going to, okay, this is discount. I'm going to select this one next. Actually, we're going to move to this last sheet. I didn't realize it. I was just kind of in the groove of just making the chart, and I didn't realize I had skipped one of the charts. So we're just going to move on to the final one, which is marketing versus revenue. This one actually has a slightly different shape from what we typically had. So let's just plot this one. So we're just going to leave this one, come over to the final sheet. I'm going to select revenue, marketing spend, and I'm going to select profit margin. Click on that, insert recommended charts, and we are going to go to the chart options, and we're going to select the 3D bubble. It's having trouble loading. It's taking just a little bit more time than others, and there we go. This is our final bubble chart. If you want to watch the other videos on how to create the other chart types in Excel, whether the ones that come before it or maybe much later in the future, maybe I've created the other versions, you can check out the description box below for the link to the course playlists or the links to the individual videos, or you could click on the playlist that is on screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe. You can also leave me a comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.